What's up guys, Ben Pollack here. As some of you may know, I recently injured my pec. And I really believe that was the result of pushing too hard for too long. So I'm finally ready to at least take the rest of the year, back off a little bit, and focus on bodybuilding style training while still emphasizing the weak points that I have with regard to powerlifting. That way I can still stay interested in my training and still have to work really, really hard with a specific goal in mind, even though I'm not training for a show. I'm really setting my body up to get ready for the US Open prep. But I need that rest, and so I have to really train this way. Dave Tate's been telling me this for a long time, and it's tough, because I like to go heavy. I like to push myself all out with heavy weights, and if you do that too much, injuries happen. It's just part of the sport. So, I want to take this opportunity to walk you guys through a power building style workout and explain how I structure it, why I choose these exercises, how hard I push, all that sorts of good stuff. This is going to be in a full-length article on Elitefts later this month, but I wanted to post it here so that you guys could give me some feedback that maybe I can incorporate into that article. So I started off with a little bit of a warm-up, as you can see here. Now, it's kind of tough to call these all-out sets of warm-up, but in honesty, that's kind of what they are, because they're setting me up for my next exercise. So I started with some banded hamstring curls, those aren't shown, and I superset those with these leg presses, excuse me. So you'll notice when I'm doing these leg presses, I have average strength, which are really actually pretty heavy bands attached to the leg press platform. That way there's constant tension on my, not really just my quads, but also my glutes and hamstrings, and I'm also trying not to quite lock out my legs all the way at the top, you can see there. I'm using a fairly wide stance for me because I really want to emphasize that ability to abduct my hips, which is one of my weaknesses. Now, if that's your weakness, you'd want to choose the same style stance. But if that's really not, you want to improve your quads, you choose a narrower stance. Little changes like that are how you make this program applicable to you. Now, right here I'm doing 4 sets of 20 on leg press, not really to failure, but pretty darn close. Superset with 4 sets of 12 on the hamstring curl. Again, not to failure, but really, really hard training. You can see how hard I'm pushing it, right? Like, I'm struggling here. This is going to pre-exhaust my entire lower body so that when I get to the squats, they're a lot more challenging. Now, I think the question here is, why would you want to make the squats more challenging? Aren't they challenging enough? And the answer is, well, yeah, they are, but I've been squatting for a long, long time. And because of that, I've really developed some muscles, and I haven't developed other muscles quite as well. To address my weaknesses, I have to bring up those muscle groups that are lagging. And really, the only way that I can do that is by forcing myself not to rely on those stronger muscle groups, because otherwise when it starts to get hard, I'm always going to start using the stronger muscle groups. That's just how your body works, right? It wants to make things as easy as possible. This is not an appropriate approach for meet prep, okay? This is specifically in the off season where I'm using very light weights, different movements than I would typically use, right? Not just the plain squat, bench, and deadlift. And I'm using very high volume, right? Supersets of 20, sets of 10 here on the safety bar box squat. I chose the safety bar box squat in particular for 2 reasons. First, I want to work on keeping my torso more upright. That's core strength and upper back. And using the safety bar really forces you to do that, because if you lean too far forward, your center of gravity is going to go forward, and you're just going to dump the bar. I'm using the box, not in the typical box squat style, but as a depth check. Because for me, it's really that hip abduction that we want to work on, right? And when I use a slightly wider stance, it's really difficult for me to get deep. That's why I use such a narrow stance when I squat. But if I want to build up my hip abduction, I need to make sure that I'm hitting depth each and every rep, and actually going a little bit below parallel. So to do that, I have the box. I'm staying tight when I touch the box. It's a quick touch, and I just know I've hit depth. I immediately reverse momentum while staying tight and come back to the top. I did 4 sets of 10 here. Short rest periods between sets, but as you can see, I was really struggling, so those rest periods kind of extended a little bit. Now, that 365 or 385, if you count the bar, it was pretty all out, and I really wanted to work up to 4 plates a side, but that wasn't going to happen. So I did this back off set to make sure I got all 4 sets in. It's another thing about the off season, you really don't have to be perfect, okay? If you're in your rep range and you're getting all the work done, you're good to go. Okay? If you fall 1 rep short, it's not a big deal. The important thing is that you're getting the work in and you're using perfect technique. I have a link below that talks more about why it's so important to use good technique when you're using higher reps. You can see I was really hurting. So we've only done 3 exercises so far, but honestly, guys, I'm pretty fried. So I'm finishing up here with some glute ham raises to hit my glutes and hams, which are a weakness for me. So I've talked about these before. You want to keep that good spinal position, neutral spine, braced abs, initiating the movement with both the hamstrings and the glutes, not only the hamstrings, and squeezing as hard as you can at the top of the movement. Now, I was so fried after this, in the middle of the night, my hamstring started cramping. So trust me, even though I'm only using body weight, it was really, really difficult for me, especially after such a long, grueling workout. But that's the point, right? I really need to make sure that I get this volume in, because the volume is going to provide the basis for my strength in the future, because using high volume forces me to use light weights that give my body a rest. And because volume allows me to really focus more on the target muscles, volume and lightweight, really allows me to focus more on the target muscles and not get so concerned about completing the rep that I let my technique break down. So that's the entire workout. Even though it was only 4 movements, it took an hour and a half. It was really brutal. I'm on a macro plan with Justin Harris that is supporting this kind of training. But I really don't think this is appropriate if you're cutting, okay? It's really, really demanding. You need to be fueling your body for growth if this is the style of training you want to use. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, there will be a full write-up on Elitefts later this month. You can check out the description below for a written summary of the exercises that I do. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I really do appreciate your feedback. I've got some exciting things planned for next year in terms of video content, in terms of personal goals, and a whole lot more. So please stay tuned for that. Please support my sponsors, Elitefts, of course, but also Granite and Iron Rebel. They have a big holiday sale coming up where you can get a good price on their products, and you can always grab my courses as well if you want your training programs designed for you. They're at phdeadlift.com. Till next time, as always, guys, think strong and train hard.